Good morning, everyone. I have an opportunity here to interview my good friend Hans. If you do not follow this man on social media right now, you should, because I'm telling you right now, the posts that he makes are life changing. They are impactful, they have a lot of truth in them. And I'm telling you, if you don't follow this guy on Facebook or somewhere that he has a profile, you should, because I'm going to repeat myself one more time. The things he posts are truly amazing. Hans, take it away, my friend.
Thank you so much, Eddie, for having me and for that awesome introduction. I was like, who's that guy you're talking about? I want to follow him. Thank you so much. Yeah. Well, yeah, we were talking about our story or my story, right? And I think for what some people have told me, right, they say, hey, you should publish more of your story. And it's so true. Those areas where you're mostly embarrassed about sometimes are the areas that could help someone else, right, see themselves in that mirror and say, whoa, if that guy was going through that, right, I can also make it, right? I can also get my stuff together and shoot for it, right? Because I truly believe that anything you put your mind to, you can achieve, right? It's
Oh my
something
God.
just like if you say, I like to quote always a quote from Henry Ford. He said, if you say you can, you can. If you say you can't, you can't, right? You're always going to be right, right?
Yes.
So I got into the habit of saying I can, right?
Hmm.
And of course, it comes with a lot of effort and a lot of, drive.
Hmm.
But I know staying broke is hard, right? Why don't
Oh
also do
man.
the other hard part of,
Right.
making it and
Yeah.
be
You
able to
know,
impact anybody else?
two things that go along with that, man. Grant Cardone on Undercover Billionaire, I think that's when I started really liking Grant Cardone even more. I mean, I followed him, don't get me wrong, but
Yeah.
when he broke down with emotion, he said, being broke's one thing, but being broke and staying there is, it's without light, it's without purpose, and it's being broke's hard. It's really
Yeah.
hard. And
Yeah.
to climb your way out of that, I used to get in trouble by saying I can't do something. And I didn't realize until I got older the impact that the words that come out of our mouth, how much they impact what we hear. When
Yep.
you say you can't, yep, you're right. You're 100% right. You can't do something. I think staying broke's a mindset thing. It's, when we run around telling ourselves, man, I'm broke. I got all these bills, everything else. Well, guess what's going to come to you? More bills, more problems.
Yeah.
So I want to touch on something. So in one of your posts, it says, as crazy it may sound, not long ago, a $10 tip would have made my day. Towards the bottom of that, you made a bold move by pulling out your credit card and investing in yourself.
Yep.
And that's where I really thought that message needs to resonate with everyone in our communities, because taking that jump and then pulling out your credit card or taking it out of your savings to invest in yourself, even though you probably didn't have the money, or you signed up for a Capital One credit card and you swiped it as soon as you got that card to go join this program or whatever it might take, the ROI that you get on that is just astronomical, unparalleled, unexpected returns. I've personally had someone travel to close to me, and we had a lunch, and we had that lunch, and I taught them some things about real estate investing. And they said, Eddie, I spent $1,500 to get there, but I'm making 15 grand a month. Like, it's
Wow.
unbelievable returns. So touch on that, man. Tell me about that story.
Well, yeah. My story is, in a nutshell, I was born and raised in South America, right? I'm come
Mhm.
from a German heritage. My father's from Germany, and I went to German school. I went to college. I graduated from, business administration, and right out of college, I said, "Great, great! I have a title now. Let me get a job that suits my title."
Yeah.
So I started working for this company here, for Puma, and they gave me the position I deserved, which was working in the warehouse, the lowest position ever, right?
Mm. Oh,
So I basically climbed the corporate ladder
yeah.
and made it well, it took me almost 20 years, but I made it to general manager of the company. So for me, life
Wow.
was good. I said, wow, this is the way. But I made one major mistake, and was putting all my eggs in one basket, right? In South America, it's not called a W-2, but it was the equivalent to a W-2 job, right? I had a job and I'm going forward. And my dream was actually to become one of the shareholders, which was, the next step. But then the country collapsed, economy collapsed, something that was beyond my control, right? Things got really messed up in the country, to the point that I was kidnapped with my wife, which was something very, very unpleasant, to put it in a very
Wow.
diplomatic way. And that, of course, was then the tip of the iceberg when we decided, we have to get out of the country, because this is not safe anymore.
Right.
So I took a bold move. That was my first bold move coming into the U.S. Right, and I was traveling back and forth, right, just keeping my job, because I was holding down to that title. I'm the general manager, even though I was making barely money, right, and it was taking a big toll on my family, Eddie, because traveling, you're for a week out, but something is, you travel once, but if you're traveling twice a month, 3 times a month, you're 3 weeks out, 1 week at home, that just takes a big toll on your family. And I was like, okay, what do I do? Right? I have to do something. So basically I had to quit. Right. And there I was, broke, right? With all that, I'm the general manager thing, right? I didn't want to have any, everything was too, low for me, right? I had that stupid mindset that I thought that I knew it all. Right. And I do believe, right, that the Lord just took me down to the lowest point ever and said, hey, I need you to restructure yourself. My
Right.
wife started out of desperation a balloon delivery company and makeup, and I was
Hmm.
the delivery boy. And that was all that thing of being the big shot manager. I was there delivering balloons, right, and going into this nice houses, because we live here in Miami, and you go to this absolute gorgeous houses where I used to be invited as here comes the general manager. I was like, yeah, wait out here, please. You're not allowed in the house. That
Hmm.
was soul crushing for me,
Yeah,
right? Because I
man.
really had to go down and do whatever it took to put money on the to put food on the table, right? And getting then $10 tips, and you were like, oh, this is great. I mean, this it's just $10 more, right? And at that point, I remember saying, like, how low did I really come? And I have nothing against someone who's working hard and getting a $10 tip, but don't stay there, right?
Right.
You don't
Right.
have to stay there. I mean, I did what I needed to do, and I know a lot of people did. And I was at that time, I was broke, right? I had no income. I didn't know what to do. And out of desperation, I saw a course, right? And I said, you know what? Let me just take that first step. It was a small step, and it was actually with Grant Cardone, right? My wife was the one who she told me, look at what this guy is doing, right? He's got something
Oh yeah.
called multifamily. And
Right.
I was like, multifamily? You want me to marry another woman for the money? Or
Yeah.
what is that multifamily? I don't understand
Right.
what that is,
Right. Right.
because that's a very American concept, right?
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't know what that is. I started listening to him. At the beginning, I have to tell you, I didn't like him too much. I said, this guy's a bragger. And my wife said, yeah, he might be whatever you want, but he is rich and you're broke, right? So you better do what he's doing and read his story. And his story was very inspirational for me, because he came from nothing. His dad
Right.
died when he was young, right? And he had no money. He had to work himself up, right? And he created that empire that he has. I said, well, that's an inspirational story, right? I want some of that. So I took the education, and I was able to, talk to my mother, talk to my sister, and some savings that I had from something that I sold. And I said, let's just buy a multifamily. And that's how I got in, right? I said, let's take action. So I bought my first property, was a 12 flicks here in Miami. That was awesome, but I was still broke, right? Because the cash flow was not enough at that
Right.
moment, right?
Right.
It was purchasing the property. I was new. I mean, the takeaway for me was, you have to take action with whatever you do, right?
Right.
So I was seeing the guy, Grant, and I say, this guy has thousands of units. Let me make the math. When can I get there? And I was like, I need to teach this to my daughter. Maybe when she teaches to her grandkids, right, we might be at 1,000 units. I said, the math is not working. So
Right.
there's got
Right.
to be something else, right? And I started searching, and then I found some education on how to build funds and and syndications. And then I got then how to really buy multifamily with another program. That was a very expensive program, right? I've spent a fortune on that, right? And I didn't have the money. The thing
Right.
was, I didn't have it. And taking that bold move, that was very risky. Of course, I talked to my wife and I said, honey, I found this. I really want to do this, but it's a risky move. And she said, we are struggling to put food on the table and you want to spend over 20 grand in an education? You're nuts. I said, yes, I'm nuts. But, sometimes people need to do this risky moves. You never hear the story of the guy who was very steady and every move he made was
It's so
completely
true.
safe and he made it to become
Yeah.
a billionaire. Nobody does that, right? It
No, no.
requires sometimes those crazy moves where I say, you know what? How worse can we be? I mean, I said,
Yeah.
we can't keep that way. I need this knowledge. So I went for it. And while I was in it, I realized I needed even some more education. And I do believe investing in yourself has the highest ROI. And I really learned how to underwrite, which I now believe, Eddie, is the most profitable skill set that you could
It
ever
is. It is because
have.
you have to understand the numbers. Now, I don't know about you, but I'm a numbers fanatic. I love numbers. They get me excited. So when I start putting things together, and even if it starts on a legal pad, and I just start writing it down and then just start doing the simple math, like you real quickly find out like this opportunity could be great. But you
Yeah.
have to understand the numbers. You have to understand, profit and loss, income,
Mhm.
other income, RUBS programs, which comes through your other income. And all of those things, you got to know them well. You got to know property taxes. You got also a big one, not to get on an underwriting path here, but not many people know that when you're given all your T12s, your actual, all the numbers you're going to put in your underwriting model, those taxes most likely do not apply to you when you purchase that property.
Oh, no.
That's an assessment on the purchase price when you paid for it. So those go up, and making that miss could be the impact of a non-cash flowing opportunity.
Yeah, yeah. And insurance, how crazy it's been now.
Yes.
That's those things you need to. So yes. So at the end of the day, for me, what it was learning a new skill set, investing in me was what I realized was the most profitable investment I've ever done. Right, because you can invest in going to a networking event, and you can invest in doing in buying stuff. But if you are really on a point where you really want to make a jump, you know, I like to. One thing that really impacted me was also listening to Jim Rohn, and he said,
Oh God, yeah.
if you want to make more money, you need to become more valuable to the marketplace because we get paid for the value we bring to the marketplace, right? What
Yep.
can we do to help others? What do you have that can impact other people's lives, right? For the better, and people will be able to do that. And if you see the richest people in the world, right, they created products that are, serving a lot, right? We are
Yeah.
now having this conversation because, well, there was a guy who, invented the computer and the programs to do this, Windows, or, the FaceTime apps and telephones, right? They serve millions of people with what they have done, right?
Right.
So I said, well, that's the path. You have to find something valuable to do that could impact other people. And there's thousands of ways of doing that. For me, it was learning how to underwrite, right? Because
Right.
that's the way I can find a property, right? Without me having to have the money. And that was a mindset thing because it's very hard to go over that hurdle of saying, well, I'm broke, but I'm going to buy a $7 million property or a $10
Mhm.
million property. That doesn't, those things don't go on the same page normally,
No,
right? Like
no, they
I'm
don't.
broke, I'm
But
buying a $7 million property.
you did something that many more people should do. Less people take a bet on themselves; they invest in the S&P. But what they should take a bet on is investing in the S&Me, not the
Oh, I
S&P.
love that. I'm going to take that.
And that's I got that from Alex Hormozy, and it's so true. He didn't invest in the S&P 500; he invested in the S&Me. And when he invested in himself, he was able to launch Gym Launch and do all these different
Yeah.
things. And everything that he did not have the skill set before he started. He had a
Mhm.
dream. He had, someone else was doing it, and he's like, I think I can do that. And,
Hmm.
he either bought the program, just did a deep dive on YouTube, went down the rabbit hole, and he just educated himself,
Yeah.
until he had value to sell to someone else.
Yeah.
And, just like that, you have done everything you got to this far by educating yourself, leveling yourself up to where you're more valuable. And now you're a guy that comes out here and educates people, not only in the mindset stuff and in changing lives that way, but also your investors. So many people don't know about what me and you do in multifamily or in
Hmm.
other opportunities. So it's up to us to come out here and educate these people on these investment types.
Yeah.
And these investment types, in my opinion, are a lot safer. They're brick and mortar, your physical address. We don't invest in intellectual property. We invest in real property.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually, the way I see that also is, if you want to do an investment on your own, right? It's all on you. You are, and I knew that because I had my own property, right? And something wrong happens in a small property, it's a big bill that takes a lot of your cash flow, right? If you have 100 units and you miss one tenant, you just lost 1% of the income. But if you have a fourplex and you lose one tenant, right, 25% of your income just went out, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's completely different, also the leverage. But then on the other hand, also, most of these investments are open for, $50,000, $100,000, and they may sound like big amounts, but what can you buy for yourself with 50 grand or with
Right.
100 grand? Right? You can get a $300,000 property. How much cash flow will it give you? And how will it appreciate? And then if we're going to go even deeper, well, what cost segregation can you get out of that, right?
Right.
So when you educate investors, right, and you say, hey, you can diversify it, and you can invest, put some bucket to become a limited partner on a syndication or in a fund, right? All my investors are now happy to say, I never thought it. I mean, I put this money there, I receive a check every quarter, and it's great. I have other properties where I invested even more money, and I'm working and I have to do stuff and I get calls, but this is just hands off, right? And they're
Right.
just happy. They're
Right.
happy. With my 12 flags that I exited, we had a 19% average annual return, right?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it was a joint venture with my mother and my sister, but their money is also their money, right? So
Right.
when I gave them the money back, they were like, "Hey, what do we do next? I like what you're doing." Right?
Yeah. Yeah. I heard another one that's really good. And I think that more people need to turn loose some more money right now
Hmm.
because there's opportunities out here. And we need to think of money like poop. When you pile it up, it stinks. When you spread it out, it grows stuff.
All right.
It's fertilizer. And when we keep piling it up and piling it up and piling it up, it doesn't do anything. It's at risk for mold, getting
Yeah.
sold, run on a bank, whatever. But when we actually physically spread that out and put it in investments, it comes back bigger and greener
Oh
and
yeah.
more of it.
Yeah.
So you've got to think that way. It's like the rich versus poor mindset. You
Yeah.
know, the poor, they just go out. If they need a new car, they just go buy a new car. And, this is a touchy subject, but we're taught this way. And we go out here, we go buy the new car, we finance it, we pay for it and everything else. Well, a wealthy man, in my opinion, he goes out and he's like, okay, you're not really thinking about the new car, but he's like, I want a new Bentley. So what he does is he finds an investment opportunity that he can invest that amount of money into that he was probably going to go buy with cash for, and then someone else ends up paying the opportunity he bought pays for his Bentley.
Yeah.
And at that point it's a tax write-off.
Yeah.
It's not a status symbol. It's not I'll be happy when. It's I'm going to take the money I've made. I'm going to go buy something that cash flows because somebody else is renting it from me. And I'm going to take that money and I'm going to go buy, whatever I want, because then he still made a monetary gain.
Yeah. Of course. Of course.
But they buy assets. A lot of people starting out, they buy liabilities. And everything
And
that does not make money is a liability.
and and touching on that subject, I mean, I think That's one of the biggest books everybody talks about, but it's like many books, people know they exist, but they haven't read it. Today, I mean, they're free in YouTube, most of them, right? You can get Rich Dad, Poor Dad from Robert Kiyosaki free on the YouTube, and
Right.
listen while you're driving, while you're, preparing breakfast, or while you're at the gym, instead of listening to music. I'll put something inside here that may change, right? To give you some extra tool, because it just requires one tool that you can grasp, and one concept, and you say, I'm going to do this. And for me, of
Right.
course, that book was, the combination of several, but that one, like in the Matrix, you have the red and the blue pill, right?
Right. Right. Right.
I took the pill, man, with Robert Kiyosaki's book, and that opened a new opportunity, right? And then always touching back on investing in yourself, right? I mean, after I invested in myself, I was able to close 100 units in 6 months. I closed another 122 back in December. I'm
Hmm.
closing another 111 in a couple of weeks, right? Also doing, investment with impact, helping the community, because it's everything you do, right, that has a positive outcome also for the communities that you're actually investing in. In that case, we're helping the homeless get back on their feet. So, so there is ways of making money, right, and also impacting positively the communities that you're actually purchasing, right?
Hmm.
So I truly believe that, man, investing in yourself is something that needs to be taught earlier on, right? We go to school and then we stop there, right? And we believe we go to college and that's the traditional education, but the self-education, those specific niche where you go deep, right? And you can grab that and become valuable there. Whoa,
Hmm.
that just, it's life changing. It's life
It
changing.
is. It is. So, what do you think that a person starting out? Now, I think we've already answered the question, but a person starting out, where should they start? Should they ask themselves their why? Should they find their purpose? Or should they reverse engineer it? And you're in a job, which I relate as just over broke, and they're good at living at $3,000 a month is what their bills are.
Mm-hmm.
So would you tell someone that, hey, think about $5,000 a month and then figure out a way to reverse engineer that and then gain the education? How would you tell somebody starting out to what would be the path? Because for me, when I wrote everything down, I was, I needed a skill set. I wanted to make six figures a year. So I found a trade that made six figures a year. For me, I started at 12 years old as a welder. And I think probably 16 years old, I was government certified. And at that point, I had a skill that I could always obtain a job that would make me six figures a year and take me all over the United States. Well, what I figured out is when I took a legal pad and I wrote down $100,000 a year, and then I went after taxes, $64,000 to $70,000 a year. Then I take out my house payment, my car payment, and everything else. Then I got down to the bottom of the sheet where that was the actual money that I might have for fun money. Or I had the money to actually put in my 401k. Well, me as a numbers guy, I guess I underwrote my own life. On my calculator, I'm like, okay, I want to work for 20 years. Well, you just take that bottom number and you just hit times 20. And then you realize, oh, that's not very much money, and you could get a raise, but cost of living is probably going to be, more than your raise. So what are you going to do? So at that point, it left me with quite the decision to make. What will
Mm-hmm.
I do? So off that preface right there, where would you tell somebody that's struggling right now, in the position you were at, and write down the things that would be important, like how much money does it really take? What would you tell somebody there?
I think the first, and that's actually an awesome question. It made me think a little bit while you were talking about it.
Yeah.
But I truly believe the first thing you need to do is you need to understand what it is that you want to accomplish, right? You need to have it's like when you jump in the car, right? You need to know where you're going, unless you're just starting the car and you're just driving and then it's just burning energy and gas, but you're getting nowhere, but you think you're moving, but you're just, wasting energy. You're not doing, you're not accomplishing anything. So you need to find one thing, right? I like to say, write 10 things down that you believe could make you an extra income and then choose one.
Right.
Choose one, right? you put those ideas there, and then you say, okay, I'm going to pursue this and stick to that. Because what I think most people are looking is immediate reward. All right. We're living on a world that everybody wants everything instantaneously, right? But building wealth has never been instantaneously unless you win the lottery. And history has shown that they lose probably everything or in a
Yeah.
worse position after a short period of time, because it's a mindset. Wealth is a mindset. It's not a bank account. It's a mindset.
I
And
two statistics on that to segue for just 1 second, and then circle right back in. Is there's been a saying several times that if you removed all the money from all the wealthy people, like if you took it all from them, it would be a period of time before they had it all back.
yep,
Because they have that identity. They have this level of education that attracts that much. Like
exactly.
Donald Trump could never be a millionaire ever again. He's a billionaire. He thinks, acts, and does as a billionaire. So therefore, he can never go less. He may temporarily, but he's going to get it right back.
Yeah.
So keep going.
Yeah. And I believe that's it. First, put yourself a goal. You have to go and select something you want to do, stick to it, right? Because there's going to be challenging times. And I believe the difference between the winners and the losers are the losers quit. The winners never quit. If you read any story of any athlete or any person who has ever succeeded at anything in their life, it wasn't like, oh yeah, I came here and they selected me and now I'm on the top of the world. They had to struggle. They had battles to fight with themselves, right? Because I believe most of the battles are in our mind, right? When I first called a broker, man, I was sweating.
Yeah.
Imposter syndrome. I'm going to talk to a guy here about an $8 million property that we actually bought. Yet I'm here delivering balloons. I'm in the car with some balloons in the back, right? And expecting hopefully to get $10 tip. Yet I'm talking to a guy here about a $7 million property or $8 million property, right? The first call was like this. Hello? Hang up. Panic.
Yeah. Yeah.
Panic.
Yeah.
So
Right.
what I
Okay.
believe,
He answered.
yeah, he answered. I was like,
Yep.
what?
Right.
Right. So what I believe to anybody is you have to have the resilience and just say, if that's the path you chose, then fight for it. No matter what, it will take effort. It will take time. I think most people see on the internet all these, they bought the jet and, this guy went into multifamily, has the Lambo and blah, blah, blah. It takes time to get there.
It
Nobody
does.
posts the 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock in the morning, grinding over the numbers. The
Well,
boring part of seeing what the hell this T12 wants to tell me, right?
the thing is we live in this microwave society. Everybody wants the gourmet 5-star meal, but we're in the hungry man society. Put it in the microwave. 6 minutes later, we've got this 5-star meal. It's not a 5-star meal.
It's
And the
not.
other thing is, all these coaches get out here and they advertise on how you can be a millionaire in your first deal. That doesn't mean $1 million in liquidity. It might be
Yeah,
$1 million net worth, but that's over 5 years.
yeah,
Even 3 to 5 years in real estate, you really can't make a tremendous amount of money. You can make money, don't get me wrong, but real wealth is built over doing this for several years, 5, 10, 15, 20 years, then you get to Goldman Sachs level.
yeah. I truly, and on that point, right? It's exactly that. You have to have the patience. But if you never start, because and this is the trap or the rat race, right? You want the immediate gratification. You want the immediate money, right? So you're not taking the time to invest in yourself, spend the nights. Because I understand if you're on a 9 to 5, right? You come home, you're tired, you want to spend time with your kids. I had to do that too. But
Mm-hmm.
then my freedom business started probably at 10 o'clock at night when everybody was in bed. And now I have to start and work 3-4 hours.
Right.
That's what it takes, right? And I believe you need to have that conversation with yourself, and it's how bad do you really want financial freedom,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because if it's something that's going to be just okay, I'm expecting to do 30 minutes a day, and if it doesn't come the second call, then I quit. Then don't start. Then it's
Right.
not for you. right?
Right.
Financial freedom, people who are, on the 1%ers or 5%ers of the world, they're fighters. And you have to change your mindset of being an employee to being an owner, right?
Mhm.
An employee has a chance to look back and say, well, it's not my fault. It was, my colleague, right? When
Mhm.
you're an owner, you can just look in the mirror and say, it's your fault. That's as far as you can look back,
Right.
right? Because you're responsible in front of your investors, in front of your other teammates, because you're an owner, you're a partner, you're not an employee, right? So that shift, you need to shift your mindset and become an owner, right? And invest in yourself, right? Seek the path. At the beginning, there's so many free resources out there, right? If you want to just change your mindset, start reading Rich Dad Poor Dad, Think and Grow Rich, listen to Jim Rohn, Tony Robbins. I mean, there's so many free resources, Gary Vee. I mean, I can name 1,000 people you can listen to that are free just to give you to put your mind in the right direction. And if you start seeking, you will find.
You
If
will.
you start seeking, you will find. I mean, for me, it took 3 months to get from the education to get the first 100 units, right? And people say you were lucky. I said, well, I was lucky, yes, but I submitted about 80 LOIs before I got that one,
Right.
right?
Right.
So I was doing
You're
it.
working.
If you want to make it, right, then just make the commitment with yourself. For me, it was I put a credit card, I maxed it out, I didn't know how to pay it. I had no money to pay it. It was a very, very risky decision. But I said, I'm going to invest in myself. And now I have a responsibility in front of myself to make this happen. A lot of people do the investment and expect that the investment magically is going to change their lives. Hey, if you don't take action, it's not going to, no matter how much money you spend. You can
Right.
go into all the coaching programs you want. It will not do a difference. If you don't change, it's not going to change.
I want to touch on that real quick. Totally amazing and so true, man. Just like your post, it's so true. And you know, I'm building this educational platform right now, and I've got this first membership, and it's the 3 easy steps to get started in real estate. Well, I've been sharing that with a couple friends, and I've noticed they've got 20%, 40% through it, and they haven't finished it.
Yeah.
And there's one thing about it. It takes a tremendous amount of discipline to continue on the free stuff because you didn't
Yeah.
pay for it. You didn't make the investment. You swiped your credit card and you didn't know how in the world you're going to pay that off. But by God, you knew one thing. You paid for it and you were going to try and get something out of it because you paid for it. So, for my people that's on my free stuff right now, they're bumping through it, but they've made no investment. So it's not that important. And one other thing I want to touch on, I think if they would have paid for it, they would have already went through it because they're like, I paid for this. I'm going to go through it. And like this
Yeah.
free course is $299. It's not a huge investment. But I think if they would have just swiped their credit card and be like, I'm going to lay some time out and I'm going to do this until I get through it because I
Yeah.
paid for this. So
Yeah.
paying for it's one. But I also want to give the listeners, I've started from rock bottom 2 or 3 times. I know you've started from rock bottom. I want to give something to our listeners as an encouragement that I truly feel I actually love when I hit rock bottom because at rock bottom, there's a stone foundation to start building on. And another thing is when I'm at rock bottom, there's walls all the way around me. I'm in this hole. And when I'm in this hole, there's only one place to go, and that's up.
Yeah.
And you've got to give yourself that this handhold and this handhold is a win. This is a
Yeah.
win. This is a win. And you've got to give yourself gratification. Every claw, every step, every stumble. Thank you. Let's keep going.
Yeah. Awesome. Love that, Eddie. Man, that's very inspirational. Yeah. It is like that. It is
Yeah. Do
like
you
that.
feel it like, rock bottom for you? You probably looked around. You're like, well, I got one more place to go, and that's up. You
Yeah.
can't kill this dude. You can't buy my dream. We're going somewhere. You swiped the card, you paid for the course, and you said, okay, let's go.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not only us who have seen that. I mean, it's repeatedly. I still hire coaches for myself, right? I still pay for education because I see the value in it, right? And it requires certain, you got to be humble, right? To understand you don't know everything, right? You
No,
don't know everything, right? You
no.
can't be a know-it-all, right? Oh yeah, I own hundreds of units. Now I know everything. No, man.
No.
There's people out there who owns thousands of units and they know way more than what I do, right? So, but it's like that. I think you also need to follow some certain people that you believe have already crossed the path that you want to go in life, right? And just follow them, right?
Right.
See what they have done, replicate it. Find someone who already is achieving that and ask them if they can mentor you, right?
Right.
That's what I did, right? I got someone who mentored me in underwriting, right? Today we're partners and we also help other people how to learn how to underwrite because I do believe it's the most profitable skill set ever.
It is. You've
You
got to know that.
can buy a $7 million, $10 million property without having to put 1 cent of your own money. You will put sweat equity. You will have to sweat it. It's not going to come for free, right?
Right.
But man, what other investment, if you are broke right now, can you do, right? That only by putting the effort, putting the hours, analyzing and bringing something where you say, hey, I see this business here. And if we do this, we can bring it over here. And there's a spread that we can make, right? And we can split that, right? Just for me bringing it to the table. I mean, what more valuable than that, right?
100%, man. 200%. You know, one more thing I want to touch on before we start bringing this to a close is, I know that you know this, and I want you to touch on it in your own words, but I'm not afraid to make a mistake. I love making mistakes because they teach me something. I tell everybody when I'm mentoring somebody in entrepreneurship or anything they're doing, go out and fail. Go out and fail fast because you're not going to learn anything by not wanting to fail. Like if you're afraid to make a mistake, you're never going to learn a single thing. Like you can get the mentorships. You can pay for it all. You can show up to seminars, conferences, everything else, but you don't remember it unless it costs you something.
Yeah.
And sometimes making a mistake, lessons cost money, good lessons cost lots, but you won't make that mistake if it was costing you. And I feel like I tell everybody, go out and fail and get up, brush yourself off, do it again. Well, that didn't work. Well, it didn't work because I didn't underwrite it correctly. I
Yeah.
didn't pay attention to the taxes and the insurance. So in your words, man, what would you tell somebody that's afraid to fail?
Don't be afraid to fail. I think that's one of the biggest. Everything that is worthwhile is hidden behind the curtain of fear.
Yes.
Everything you feel first have to face that fear. As I told you on the phone call with the broker, do you think that my second phone call with the broker was like, "Hey, I'm looking at this property. Can you tell me the vintage? I'm looking blah 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 blah," and I knew all the lingo? Hell no. Second call was I sounded like I was stuttering. I didn't know what I was talking about, and they were asking me questions. And I'm 100% positive, the broker was like, "Who is this guy who has no clue what
Yeah.
he's talking about? Why
Right.
am I losing money? Why am I losing time talking to this person?" I 100% guarantee he said, "This is a total newbie. I just lost 10 minutes of my time."
Yeah.
So what? I gained in that 10 minutes free education.
Right.
The best education in the world was by taking action.
Yep.
If you're looking to have it perfect, you'll never, ever do anything.
No.
You have to just take a risk and say, well, let me make that call. The second one, awful. The third one, a little less awful, right?
Mhm.
And the fourth and the fifth, and then, but at the 10th call, well, now you know a little bit better. You sound
Yep.
a little bit better. Maybe by the call number 20, now you can actually sound like someone who knows what they're asking for, right? But you only get to call 20 by doing the other 19, right? So don't be afraid of failing, right? First LOI. You think I was aiming to win the deal when I submitted it? And that's what I tell my students as well. I said, don't aim to win the first deal. You're
Right.
killing yourself mentally. Learn this thing by
Right.
doing it.
Mhm.
Submit so you get everything there, right? So when you submit the first one, now you're a little bit smarter. The second one is going to be better. The third one is going to be even better. And who knows, maybe the fourth one you win it. Maybe the first one. I've never seen that, but it could happen, right? But it's not like, oh, I did it once and I'm expecting it to be perfect.
Right.
Just take the risk, man. Take the risk. Anybody who's
Yeah.
listening here, the risk is worthwhile.
Yeah.
Anything, If you want to live a life without risk, well, then put your money in your savings account, stay in a W-2 job, and then when you're 70, start looking, or 60, start looking back and say, oh man, I was on a conference once, and this guy Ed Milet, he really changed things
Oh, I
in
love
my
it.
mind. Yeah, he said, when we die, right? He said, God is going to put us in front of the person he designed us to be, right? And he designed everybody, every single one of us, to be to his image, right? And to be thriving human beings. He said, heaven is if that person and you look at each other and you recognize each other, say, man, yeah, you did it. Oh, you fell down and you stood up and you did it again. And wow, you did amazing. He said, hell, if you and that person are two perfect strangers.
Dude, that gives me chills. This is it, man. This is the moment I've been waiting for because I knew it'd come out in this podcast. And I've had it a few times now. Is that goosebumps, man? That feeling, that emotion. That's why we do what we do. And another one, I think it was Jim Rome or somebody else said that you're laying on your deathbed and all of these dreams come to visit you.
Yeah.
And they're your own, like Jiminy Crickets, because they were only given to you and you didn't act on them.
Yeah.
And fear, I want to leave my audience with, fear is fake evidence appearing real.
Oh,
Fear is fake. It is 100% fake. It is just an emotion. For me, I started out pretty rough, man, in life. I died when I first started out. I flatlined. I come back. So I always had a different feeling about fear. I always had this great deal of faith. And, I knew that fear to me was fake. I mean, once you've already died once, what more is there than that, So for me, I had this relationship. And if I could give that to someone else, I'm addicted to fear. I love it, man. Like, my fear drives me. Like, when I sign up for something way bigger than I can ever feel like I can achieve, I am driven by the fear of that failure. I am driven by, man, this may not work, but just that feeling just drives me. And if you can get a hold of that, you can do what Hans has done, because I guarantee you he was shaking in his boots when he swiped the card. And then when he made that first call, but he did it. And that is what we got to do, is take action. And I believe that's so true, man. We were designed to do these amazing things. And Ed Milet says it best right there when he says, there's this thing that you're supposed to accomplish in life. And when you meet that person, you hope that you're like you saying, man, you fell down, stumbled. I was getting worried there for a minute, but you got back up, you brushed yourself off, and look where you are now.
Yeah.
That's something to be proud of.
Yeah.
Totally, man. Amazing podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. How does anyone get in touch with you?
Well, I think the easiest way is always social media, right? I'm very active in Facebook. It's my name, Hans Seelinger. It's Hans, and my last name is Seelinger. And you can also write to me to my email, which is info@uw2win.com, right? Which is underwrite to win. And that's the easiest way. info@uw2win, the number 2 win.com.
Man, I love that. I cannot thank you enough for having this podcast with me today. I knew that this would be a good one, and it is. And, I really feel like our audience got a ton of gold in this. I got to close by saying, what would you name this podcast? If you were to name this podcast, like somebody's searching for something, what should we put in the description for people?
I think that there's two topics that we really went deep into, right? One was if you're broke, invest in yourself, and everything and fear is just an illusion, right?
It is.
Overcome your illusion, overcome the fear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I used to tell my mom, she's like, I wish you'd quit racing. I wish you'd quit doing all these things. I was a speed junkie, adrenaline junkie. And I said, Mom, I said, there is danger walking across the street. It's more dangerous for me to walk across the street than it is to get on my motorcycle or to get in my race car and race. And she said, explain. I said, well, simply because I'm in blue jeans and a t-shirt and tennis shoes when I walk across the street. I'm taking educated risk when I jump in my race car because I'm in a fireproof suit, a helmet, a Hans device, all these things that protect me. I got a roll cage, fire suppression system. Yeah, there's a good opportunity. I'm going to go out and wreck today, but I'm willing to take the risk. But underwriting allows us to put the safety gear on. It's not as risky as just willy-nilly walking across the street. You're educating your risk. You're educating yourself and you're mitigating it through your underwriting.
Completely. Wow. Yeah. Well, that's amazing how you compared it. Man, that's awesome. Yes.
So, yeah, my mom's like, gosh, I wish you'd quit. And I was like, I wish I'd quit walking across the street because if I get hit then I'm probably done. But I said, I crashed that race car at 200 miles an hour. I'm walking away most likely.
Yeah.
If I get hit by a car, there's a pretty good chance I'm going to succumb to my injuries. You know?
Yeah.
Man,
Yeah.
thank you so much. It's been amazing. Audience, please do me a favor. Please share this with anyone that you know that is struggling, that is broke and doesn't know how to get out. And I guarantee you, if you would message myself or Hans, we would do anything we could to inspire you to get out of the hole and swipe your credit card. And I'm not saying swipe your credit card in one of our programs. We may even refer you to somebody else. But if you're going through it, if you're going through hell, don't put your head down and sit down Indian style and cry about it. It's hell. Get the hell out of there. Move. Keep walking, because why, if you're going through hell, would you go slow about it? Start picking up the pace and running. Get out of it and keep moving and use this as inspiration. Like I said, if you know somebody that needs to hear this, please share it. Please like and subscribe. Get a hold of my friend Hans here. We're here to help you. And please do one thing for me. Do not be the extraordinary person. Be the extraordinary person. It's just the extra. Don't be ordinary, be extraordinary. Y'all have a good day, and thank you so much.